Hey everybody, welcome back to another Warhammer Anonymous video. This is another one of our monthly updates. We finished the Kansas City Open, we finished a small RTT, and then this weekend we've got another RTT that we're going to across town. So we figured we'd update where the team is, how ITC looks, how we did at the biggest event of the year for the Midwest, the Kansas City Open with GW, how everybody who went did as best they could, and then one of our oopsie players who also will learn from the balanced data slate, let's put it that way. So as it stands right now, Warhammer Anonymous, with all of the scores that have been put into the ITC rankings, and ITC is going to end when?
February?
LVO, Las Vegas Open. Yeah. So there's still a couple of months. We've got one or two big events in between now and then that are ITC scored. Mm-hmm. So we'll see if the team can shift a little bit. But right now in the ITC overall, we are 43rd. And then in the US, we are currently a 24th ranked team. So the team's actually doing fantastic this year. Been to a lot of big events. We've got a lot of scores from those big events that counted. And we're doing better than almost everybody in the Midwest. I think there's one or two teams, Denver Mountain Trolls and Team Texas, I think, maybe ahead of us, but that's really about it. So doing fantastic, way better than we did last year. So when you get your mind to it, you can get those points. Then the biggest thing is the event that we just came back from, which is Kansas City Open, was 182, I think is what they ended up. It started at 140, and then like 40 people signed up like day of, or at least got submitted day of. So became a huge, massive event. Was an 8-round tournament, 3 on day 1, 3 on day 2, 2 on day 3. Yep. 3 days of Warhammer 40K in a row. How'd y'all like that 3 days?
I felt better during this 3 days than Dallas, personally.
I did too.
I was feeling, I thought it was a good event and went quicker for some reason. But
yeah. I think the biggest difference between that 3 day and some of the other ones I did is you knew you were going to play day 3, and every position mattered. Where in some of them they would be like 2 days, and then like day 3 would go to a bracket system, and like really day 3 was only for like 8 people or 10 people. Mm-hmm. So I think that was kind of neat. GW did 4 rounds completely randomized by win, and then they broke it into 3 different brackets, top 16, and then a giant chunk of like 30 or 40, and then everybody else. And then you stayed in your bracket permanently. So if you were in the second bracket, you could never break into the top 16, but you could win the 1-loss bracket. Yeah. So it was really interesting. I was kind of sad to hear that because I didn't make it into the top 16. So even if I won out, I couldn't break into the top 16, but I knew I could do as good as I could. I could get 17th place. So it was still pretty neat, a lot of fun. Their terrain was interesting. They played all first floor blocks line of sight, and then it's the GW setup, which is the 4 big pieces set up in 2 different formats. And then you play their mission setup on every one of them. So it was pretty interesting because none of the terrain ever moved. You just showed up and the terrain was there for that like whole week or that whole day. Yep. Every table was going to look that way. So you just deployed the objectives and then you were good to go. How did y'all like the terrain?
I didn't really enjoy it. There's no flexibility, and there's the 12-inch giant ruin. And like being a GW event, I would have thought, the terrain would have been a little nicer.
There were probably 5 tables. And then just rinse, repeat the exact same 5 tables over and over and over and over, as many tables as they needed. Yeah. So yeah, there wasn't a really, you could theoretically have played the same table.
I think I played the same table a couple times.
Yeah. I know I played the same table 3 times, but you could have played it the whole event.
Yeah, like I never played the orc table, which was more protective than some of the others.
The orc, and see, that was kind of the other part that was interesting. The orc tables that were set up were like, on that 12 by 12 sheet that they use, 80% of it was all blocked. There was like one little corner that you could walk into. So if you were a vehicle or something, or a shooting army, you were never shooting in these 12 by 12s. Yeah. They were crazy. But in some of them, it was just one wall, and then almost all the sides were open. Yeah. So your game really differed depending on the table that you showed up at, and you knew as soon as you got there. Like, it was really interesting. But with first 4 blocks line of sight, as everybody knows, you could walk all the way up to the wall and never get shot at. So melee armies did overperform at the event, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because there's nothing you can really do about it. But the gaps in between each piece's terrain are actually really big. So, like, if you're kind of mixed faction, you can shoot and melee, you can kind of play the game.
It depends on the mission, too, though.
And it depends on the missions
I got
that you're
matched
playing
into
at.
Chaos Knights, and it was, if you go second, and they have so much mobility.
Yeah, they
they're
can
able
just
to
cut all those lines.
Woo!
Like, not even a problem.
And so, obviously, that's a mission-dependent thing. There's some missions on that setup that would have been totally fine, but sometimes it just leaves it way open where you just end up, out in the open.
What he said actually plays a huge part. So because they don't move the terrain, you would get there and certain missions, your objectives are straight up in the terrain. Nothing you can do about it. You can stand on that objective the whole time and nobody can shoot you. And then I think 3 of the missions, literally no objective is in terrain. They are all in the middle of nowhere.
Is it Abandoned Sanctuaries? It's a cross.
Yeah, just the T.
Yeah.
They are literally all out in the middle of nowhere. Like just a shooting gallery of death.
You play Tau, it's going to be a bad
Yeah,
time.
exactly. If you get the wrong matchup on that table, you're like, well, I'm just not going to hold these.
Yeah.
They're all dead. Like so it's really interesting. GW terrain leaves a lot kind of to be. That's why we prefer the player place terrain format with good terrain. That way, it's your problem if you did it wrong. It's not the events. You can't get mad because you're like, oh, I showed up at the table just shooting gallery. I'm playing melee. It's your fault if you did it.
Yeah,
that's all you can do. So other than that, I think they did a good job. They had a bartender and they gave out drink tickets willy-nilly, like it was going out of style.
All the judges and all the people running the event were super
Oh,
cool.
the event
Like,
team was fantastic.
They were great. That
Real
was
good.
awesome. Yeah, they were super cool.
And then a lot of, like, we thought as a GW event, it was going to be, I wouldn't say all fun and games. I figured people would be there to play to win, but we figured it would kind of be like a whole lot of people just trying to get into the hobby, stuff like that. This ended up being a sweaty event. There were major names there. Pretty much Art of War was there. All these big teams, big showing. Like they were even surprised by the amount of lists and stuff that was there. That were like, no, and these guys came to win. That was a little surprising. They had 2 streaming tables, and the commentator and Nick Nativati, of course, did a fantastic job. I ended up being on stream round 2.
I was the first game.
You were round
Space
1 with Space Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
I dodged
And I
streams
think
on
you
that.
dodged stream.
I did.
So I think that's the funniest part. I ended up in bracket 2 with Nathan. Jason ended up in bracket 1. He never ended up on stream, but we both ended up on stream day 1, which was really kind of neat. I think you won your?
I did, yeah.
And then I won mine. Mine was the Night Mirror, and I went first, so it didn't count. So I guess we can get to the meat and potatoes. KC Open. Jason did fantastic on day 1. 1 loss?
No, I won.
No, you were 4-0. So Jason got into the top 16 bracket. He ended up finishing 12th with
12th.
what was your record?
4-4.
4-4.
I played Lennon. I played Phil the Glacial Geek.
Yep.
I played one of the top demon players. Like it was rough.
That's it. The top 16 was heavy. I made a prediction based on kind of what we were seeing too. I said I wouldn't be surprised if half of the top 16 was Chaos and if every one of them had Flamers. And I was close. Half were Chaos players, a mix of between, Chaos and Demons and just Marines. And 5 of them had Flamers in their lists. So, GW, small tweak. Flamers might need to go up in points. Just saying. But Jason did fantastic, got 12th place. I ended up getting the next highest on the team. I got 22nd. I lost 1 other game in the 1-loss bracket, so I finished with only 2 losses.
Which I think that just goes to show how kind of silly the format is. I went 4-4,
Oh, yeah,
but I placed better than you.
Yeah, 10 places higher than me.
But I also got stuck with, like the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And,
It's a little different. Yeah.
when you can't get away from them, it makes it a little tough.
That's true. Like the pod is definitely more difficult because I definitely had 1 more gimme game, and then the rest of mine were pretty sweaty, but they didn't feel unsurmountable. I was in every game. So I was pretty happy with it. Nathan, best showing that he's had at one of our big events, correct?
Yeah, did all right, yeah.
39th place overall, so of 180 people. 39th, not so bad.
Not bad. No.
How'd your record end up?
I was 5-3.
5-3.
Uh-huh.
Which also beat me.
And it was, yeah, I had a lot of good matchups. I went against a lot of CSM builds.
CSM were everywhere, man.
Creations of Biles, Brutal, and Goffs. But it was cool to get to. I got a good spread of different stuff, though. I didn't feel like I was just matching into Tyranids or something.
Yeah. What was it? Dallas, right?
Dallas,
Nids.
every time.
That was
Oh my
pre-nerf,
God.
pre-FAQ. Everybody
so
played
brutal.
Nids. It was the most brutal thing in the world.
No, thank you.
And then this is where we talk about the dark horse of the team. What happened? John, who's typically one of our highest performing players, he got 70th place. So that shows where the data slate came in. So John got truly affected by the data slate with his Nids. He was running 30-ish warrior, or almost 30 warriors. They took Leviathan away from that, so he moved into Kraken. And not a whole lot of practice, real kind of last minute. Didn't do great on day 1. Kind of picked it up in days 2 and 3, but ended up in 70th place. We've made some tweaks to that. John just doesn't like how Kraken plays. Loves the Spore Mine build, so he's leaned heavier into the Spore Mines, and then just shifted back to Leviathan. So he's playing almost identical list to what he played at KC, but moving into Leviathan to be more durable. He said the problem that he ran into is, and I noticed this in my Kraken games, the Kraken players I played, when you catch them, you just kill them. Just kill your Kraken models. I don't care. Raveners, whatever it is, I'm going to murder them. Leviathan, you kind of have some staying power. You can give up the 5-up Invul and the 5-up Film of Pain. You still get baby transhuman on a lot of those units. So I think John's going to tweak that list, come back. He did. So on the RTT, which we played after KC Open, John got second with the slightly tweaked erase Kraken, do Leviathan, and so it showed, like, he just knows how to play Leviathan. He knows the way that he wants to play that army, and he played fantastic at the RTT. He got second. So I think John just little oopsie at KC Open. I think minor tweak and just maybe a little bit more play testing. He'd have been up there in the 30th with us somewhere probably.
I think he could have made it.
I was going to say,
bracket.
yeah.
You think he could have wiped
Because
day one?
he beat me at the RTT for to get second. I cost him first. Sorry, John. It was a rough game. I think I stopped. I think he got one Warp Ritual in.
Oh, that's right.
I was like, I got a CP. I'm gonna re-roll that tonight. He still beat me like by 20 points and almost. I think he essentially tabled me.
Yeah, he knows how to play that list. He said he's just kind of shifted away from the Warriors into a Ravener build with Leviathan, but he can still play the list exactly how he was.
The stupid Reaper.
And
his Reaper killed like 700 points of my army during our game.
You got to play it. Like
I'm adding it back in. There's no way you can.
It is a crutch. I hate the fact that the Reaper's got to be in there, even after I think it was the lightest touch, as I said. The Reaper, 3 mortal wounds max, not even a problem. He's still the best thing that you can bring in the list. You just got to play with him. Yeah. So I think everybody had a fantastic time. We have another RTT coming up this weekend. One of the competitive teams in one of the competitive stores, Team Arcanites. Where are they located?
Lee Summit.
Lee Summit. So they're located in Lee Summit, Kansas. Missouri.
Yeah.
Lee Summit, Missouri. It's all greater Kansas City area.
Yeah, it's close.
So we're going to head up there. We've got 4 of our team, everybody here, and then one other who are going to go over to Arcanites and see how the store runs, see how the event runs. So we're hoping to have a whole lot of fun at that one. Maybe give them the good one, too, and sweep the top bracket, so you never know. I think, John, you're going to...
If we can dodge each other.
Yeah. John's not going to that event. He's got some work stuff going on. Jason's going to be playing...
Hopefully Votan.
He's got a couple of models he needs to put. Going to be playing your Orcs.
Yeah.
Tons of success. Roll first, go first.
Oh, yeah.
And then because nobody else is going to be there with Nids, I'm going to be bringing my Leviathan Nids list. So we'll see how dusting the Nids off, putting the Knights back down while nobody else is playing them. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the team's doing fantastic. As you saw, great showing at a 200-person event almost. Next year is going to be nothing but fun. We're still planning on going to a lot of the big events. We've already got one in our sights. Frontline Gaming's got an event that's going to be in Denver, so we're adding that to kind of the list of things that we're going to try to go to starting the next ITC year. Other than that, anything that y'all want to add? Anything crazy lists that you're hoping data slate January? Anything?
Demons, Flamers. Flamers are bad, and even Creation Smile. Like, just Chaos in general, I've been struggling against.
I kind of made that prediction. I think Chaos is going to be your boogeyman moving into January data slate and points update. There are certain things that just stick out that don't make any sense. Flamers are way too cheap for everything you get out of that model. Possessed and Chosen they make a Blade Guard veteran look like a piece of trash. Like, that's how dirt cheap they are. And then the other gun, you've just got Abaddon running around doing whatever he wants.
I will say they seem pretty like pigeonholed into one build though, right? I don't know. It doesn't, or not one build, but like it seems like they
one area.
One area, so like I think they probably have to be a little careful. Just
Oh,
so
I
that it
definitely
doesn't,
agree. I
you
don't
know-
think Chaos needs a huge touching, but there are certain things like any list can go up probably about a 10% win rate just by adding 15 flamers to it.
Well, yeah.
So like
The flamers are
there's
goofy,
that
yes.
problem, but no, I think you don't want to bring them down to Marine levels. Like you can't suddenly be like, oh, possesses 35 points, because then they're garbage. Because
Yeah.
look at Marines, they're garbage. I hate saying that, but maybe Marines get that treatment. Maybe we don't complain where Chaos is, but maybe Blade Guard go to like 25 points a model or something like that.
Oh,
Like just straight discount pricing on that whole army line. And that could be what brings them in, because even though the first place at GW was a Blood Angels player, they even specifically like talked about it. His matchups, he never went into anything that was a negative matchup for him. Like he didn't play into Mortal Wound Tyranids or anything like that. So
I don't know how.
I don't know how he did in the top either. But Blood Angels in terrain are good versus Flamers. It's AP2. There's no way to really mess with that. And they're 2-up armor with Armor of Contempt sitting in terrain, so they just make 2-ups. So like it's really neat that he kind of found a hole and he played what he needed the whole time. But I think
That guy's a really good player.
no, he's
Like,
a fantastic player.
awesome.
So I'm not going to take
Yeah,
anything. He
awesome.
played the hell out of
He's
that
awesome.
army, but he dodged what he needed to dodge, and he played what he needed to play. And people took lists very similar to him,
Yep.
and went 0-5 like the next weekend at big majors. So
Yeah.
Marines still need the help, but I think we can get there. January's hopefully new 40K. Nephilim, I believe, is done in January.
And a points update too, right?
Points, data slate, and possibly a whole new set of secondaries. So January might be new 40K. Imperial Guard just got their stuff. Is there another army that we're missing before December?
World Eaters, right?
World Eaters
But
is the
I
next
don't know
one.
if we know when they're coming though.
Just said
it's in winter.
Yeah.
But there's a preview this weekend.
Correct.
Oh,
So it's a
okay.
big announcement this weekend. So you never know what's going to happen in 40K. I think the team's doing fantastic. The guys have really started to get everything buckled down, set in. This year looks like it's going to end fantastic. And then moving into next year, next Lord Marshal, and next ITC, see where we land. Hey, thank y'all very much for joining us. The guys are going to continue to kill it, and we're going to continue to kill that. Like that video, subscribe, support the channel, and we will see y'all next time.